I'd like to thank the opposition for the opportunity to talk about the stability and the cohesion of the key national government and its relationships with the ACT Party, the United Future and the Maori Party. I think the Labor are very disappointed that they haven't had the running camera shots, they haven't had the stand-up press conferences in the airports, they haven't had the apologies, they haven't had the leader being chased around as well as his members, all the palaver that goes with the loving family that is the Labor Party under pressure. They're so disappointed that they haven't seen the kind of performance going on around George Hawkins or my good friend Luamanavo, Winnie Laban, suddenly resigning and precipitating a by-election without telling her leader. They're just so disappointed that the ACT Party haven't indulged in melodrama, soap opera, mess-ups, mistakes and apologies that have been the chapter of the Labor Party for the last 3 months. And I must say, a chapter that is new chapters are likely to be revealed as the months go on. Mr. Speaker, the relationship between between the National Party and its support parties is, as we have often said, one of respect, not necessarily agreement. And couple that sensible description of our relationships along with the consummate skills of the Prime Minister and the relentless attention of various ministers and members of the respective caucuses to a positive relationship is what has led to a very cohesive and stable government through what have been some very difficult times. All small parties have to bear the pressures of being in government, and I would have thought the Labor Party knew a bit about that. I can recall about this stage of the Labor Party's political cycle, or in fact a wee bit later on, where I think Jim Anderton was leader of the Alliance in Parliament while he had been expelled from the Alliance out of Parliament, which was, and I'm just trying to work out whether that's exactly the obverse of the ridiculous situation with Chris Carter, who's not a member of the Labor Party in Parliament, but is still alive and kicking, paying his subscription as a member of the Labor Party outside of Parliament. No. Maurice Williamson would be very proud to be dragged along to the Labor's ruling council to be expelled for saying, well, he has said Phil Goff can't win, just like Chris Carter. So why aren't they trying to kick Maurice Williamson out of the Labor Party? They haven't succeeded in moving Chris Carter 1 inch. They haven't moved him 1 inch. He is a full-blooded, totally subscribed, 24-hour-a-day member of the Labor Party. And even though he, in their Stalinist way, he's been diagnosed as suffering from mental illness, which is what happens when you disagree with anyone in the Labor Party, he's still there. He's still there, Mr. Speaker. But I am sure that little show will go on. You know, like the show 2.5 Men, it will continue with the same punchlines and that slightly wacky atmosphere for the next 9, 12 months, 15 months through to the election. And alongside that, well, and I left out George Hawkins and Shane Jones. We left them out, but, you know, that's more episodes. Mr. Speaker, what the government has developed is a healthy and stable culture where a party, look, I think it's pretty obvious, the ACT Party don't always agree with the Maori Party, and neither of them always agree with the government. But we have in these parties people who are committed to a national good for New Zealand, who have an ability to understand the complexity of the issues and are able to deal with them when they're laid out in a transparent and respectful way. And this government has, with that recipe, been able to deal with some very complex issues. And I'd have to say, as a finance minister representing the Cabinet's effort to get New Zealand through a recession, for instance, I have found all our support parties, ACT, United Future and the Maori Party, have a strong, intuitive grip of what's needed to get through a recession. They don't agree with every detail that the government of economic policy, but we have been able to put together two coherent budgets with the full support of those parties and the full involvement of those parties, and the National Party appreciates it. But more importantly, New Zealand as a nation is benefiting from what has been a unique combination of political interests and a uniquely successful style of management by the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister has, in the matter that's subject to this debate, simply ensured the continuity of a competent executive. Every small parties, big parties have their own internal issues that they deal with. The Prime Minister, as he's made it plain that it's his prerogative about who's in Cabinet. That's an issue that can be discussed at any time with minor parties and support parties, and has been. But he has simply ensured the continuity of the executive, and I must pay a compliment to the ACT Party in the sense that whatever issues they've been dealing with, they have made absolutely sure that there has been no disruption to the process of government. There's been no attempt to draw focus away from the big issues that the government has to deal with. And look, I know Labor are disappointed. They are very disappointed that issues that they have to deal with, which take night after night on TV over a series of months to deal with, have been dealt with by within the framework of this government and by the ACT Party in a way which has ensured that those things which are properly the province of a party membership in a caucus room are dealt with there, and those things that are properly required by a government to continue with good government have remained there. And Mr. Speaker, one of the reasons the ACT Party have worked with the Prime Minister through these circumstances is because they support the government's economic program, and it is a comprehensive and wide-ranging program. They know that, for instance, to get effective investment in infrastructure, they need to support this government, and they have done so admirably. They have particularly focused on another part of our six-point plan, and that is reducing red tape, where the leader of the ACT Party, the Honourable Rodney Hyde, has taken up a role somewhat as the conscience of the government on this matter, to make sure that the relentless pressure to regulate more is resisted, that the relentless pressure to react to political circumstances with low-quality regulation is also resisted. The ACT Party and all its members have shown a great deal of interest in the government's plans for making the public sector more productive by delivering effective frontline services and reducing back-office costs. I'm quite sure that the ACT caucus would rather that the national-led government moved faster, that it consolidated the budget more quickly, that we reached surpluses more quickly, and those are all arguable propositions. There are other countries who are following the kind of track that the ACT Party advocate, and the United Kingdom would probably be the most obvious example. But we are able, because of the style of relationship that exists between the National Party and its support parties, able to debate those issues, to come to coherent decisions and to implement them. Mr. Speaker, the ACT Party has also shown a great deal of interest in the government's tax moves, which it will implement on the 1st of October. And that is because I think they understand the reason for those tax changes. This is an economy that's become unbalanced with too much consumption and excessive borrowing to pay for that consumption. So we have increased taxes on consumption with an increase in GST, increase